So let's talk about creating a perfect pitch. I'm going to quickly go over three things that every pitch needs, and then we're going to talk about how to do it. So to quickly talk about what it needs, first, the pitch needs to feel like it's a solution that's exactly what the prospect needs. When they hear your pitch, they should feel like there is no issue with value. The problem that they came on this call to solve, this solution is the answer. This is it. If I do this, I'm going to achieve the goals that I'm setting out to achieve. That's the first thing your solution needs to do. That's the first thing your pitch needs to convey. The second thing is it needs to validate the depth of your discovery. If you're not utilizing what was said in discovery to formulate your pitch to some degree, you're missing out on so much trust that could be built and so much value that could be built in the service that you're offering. And lastly, the pitch needs to set your solution apart. A lot of people, especially when you're talking B2B, have either seen multiple different offers, have gotten on multiple different calls. You're not the first person trying to help them in this way. So what are you doing in order to differentiate yourself? If you can hit those three things, you'll have a solid pitch. But talking about in more depth how to actually go about it, the first piece, you want to really explain how each service will be used, aligning with the problem that it solves for them. So as you're going through your pitch, there's usually 3 or 4 pillars. There's usually 3 or 4 parts to your offering. And instead of just saying, this is what we do, you want to make callbacks to the discovery. And this is why I said like it validates the depth of your discovery, because you're making callbacks to your discovery, showcasing how this specific part of your service helps with that thing they were struggling struggling in. For example, if at one point we were selling a offer that helped coaches and consultants start and launch their coaching business, starting their offer. And the pillars of the offer, it was a 4-pillar process, and it was realistically offer creation, marketing, and filling their calendar, sales, and then delivery. That was the bones of the pitch. That was kind of the 4 pillars. And how we would explain each part of the service would be tying it to the specific, and we would spend a lot more time and have a lot more emphasis on the specific part in the process that prospect was struggling with when we went through the discovery. So you're going to speak to some consultants that have a established great offer. They're marketing it well, but they really suck on the closing side. Maybe their sales team isn't that good. Maybe they're booking calls, but their show rate and those kind of things aren't very good. So when we're going through the pitch, that is the part we're going to emphasize a lot. We're going to spend a lot more time explaining that and how it would help with their specific situation, tailoring the pitch for them. Some people, great offer, terrible marketing, they aren't able to get people on calls. That's the part we're going to emphasize, and so on and so forth for each of the pillars. And we're making callbacks saying things like, hey, remember how you said that you have people that respond well to your marketing, but you're just struggling at that last piece where you're trying to book them on the call? Well, that's why the second thing we're going to work on is X, and this is how it works, right? So that's how I'm framing that second pillar when I go into marketing and booking, like the booking calls, the sales engine, right? So the pillars of your pitch are always going to be the same, but the way you explain them is going to shift slightly depending on the prospect you're in front of and what information you gathered throughout the discovery. The second thing you want to make sure you're doing in your pitch, and this is something that's so overlooked, but insanely powerful for creating that connection of this is the perfect solution in the prospect's mind, it's using their vocabulary. I don't hear many people talk about this, but I've seen it make such a massive difference on sales calls. When you use someone's vocabulary to explain things, they understand it on a much deeper level because it's their vocabulary, right? Rather than using words that they either may not make the same connection that you're making to the meaning of that word, or whether that person maybe just doesn't understand the word you're using, but is pretending to keep the conversation moving along. Both of those reasons are why you want to just go with the easy route of using their vocabulary. And this is where, again, you're utilizing that discovery. You're picking up on words, picking up on things that they say in order to formulate your pitch and make it sound like it's exactly what they need for them. For example, if I was explaining the features of my offering and I was selling one-to-one coaching, like one-on-one support, right? There's a question that I want to ask in almost all of my sales calls, which is maybe after I go through their goals or something like that, I'll ask, what level of support do you feel like you need, or what support do you feel like you need in order to achieve XYZ results, or in order to solve XYZ problem, depending on how I formulate the question. They're going to tell me, I would really like this, I would really like that. And if we're talking about one-to-one support specifically, some people are going to tell me they want one-to-one support. Some people are going to tell me they want hand holding every step of the way. Some people are going to tell me they want one-on-one attention. Some people are going to tell me they want one-on-one coaching. Some people are going to tell, like, there's so many ways you can say it, but they all mean one-on-one coaching, right? Attention, support, whatever, right? Direct access, whatever. They're going to all say it slightly differently. So now later in my pitch, when I'm actually pitching what we help with, as long as we actually do offer it, obviously I'm not going to plug things into my pitch that don't exist. I'm not going to make things up. But if we do offer one-on-one coaching, if they told me, hey, I'm just looking for one-on-one support, I'm not going to then pitch, hey, we do one-on-one consults, or I'm not going to pitch, we have, direct access. I'm not going to pitch, we have one-on-one, whatever. I'm not going to pitch something that's different from what they said. I'm just going to use their vocabulary because it's exactly what they say they want. So if they say, I want one-on-one support, when I'm pitching the one-to-one coaching, I'm going to say, you have one-on-one support. I'm going to use that exact same vocabulary, that exact same language, right? If they say, yeah, one of my goals is I really just want to fill the calendar, book XYZ amount of calls per day. When I'm pitching the part where we help them with their marketing and appointment setting and booking, I'm not going to say, yeah, we're going to help you get fully booked up on your calendar. No, I'm going to literally say, we're going to help you fill the calendar, right? I'm going to use their language because that's the way they understand it. And the way they understand it is I want them to make that connection with what we're offering, so that at the end of the pitch, when I say, hey, do you feel like this is what you need in order to get XYZ results? They're like, oh my gosh, yes, this is exactly what I need. And when I've pitched like this, I've never gotten a no to that question. It's always been an ecstatic, this is exactly it. This makes so much more sense. This is different from the other people that I've spoken to. This is it. This is perfect, right? You're going to get that when you start to use their language, because everyone has slight definitions that they put on things that could be slightly different from your definition. For example, I do exercise a lot of times with people to kind of get this point across, and I say, hey, raise your hand if you think that if I have two things, if I have two things and I say one is awesome and one is great, which one is better? Raise your hand if awesome is better. A couple people raise their hand. Raise your hand if great is better. A couple people raise their hand. And it just goes to show that some people see awesome is better than great, and some people see great as better than awesome. Although the definition of the word doesn't actually change, people perceive it differently based off of a difference in whatever, right? Who knows why there's a difference? It's just whatever they feel when it comes to that word. So when I'm pitching something, if a prospect on the call says, I just want to have a great business, and then when I'm pitching, I'm going to say, don't worry, we're going to help you have an awesome business. I don't know if they're perceiving me saying we're going to help you build an awesome business as better or worse than the great business that they wanted to build, right? So to avoid any of those miscommunications, and it seems silly, but I'm telling you, it makes a massive difference. To avoid any of those miscommunications, just use their vocabulary. Hopefully I got that point across. There's so many examples I could give, but hopefully that makes sense. So use their vocabulary where possible. And lastly, one just really cohesive, this is more of like a cohesion thing when it comes to the pitch. It really helps it flow nicely. You want to allow each service, each pillar that you bring up, to kind of create problems that logistically lead into the next solution. So the way, if I go back to that example of helping consultants kind of start and scale their business, the way each one would lead into the next is, if I'm saying, hey, first things first, we're going to help you with offer creation. What happens once you have a killer offer and killer messaging? Well, you either got to market it, or if people are already seeing it, the people are going to start, coming inbound. They're going to start reaching out to you. They're going to start desiring that service, right? So once you have a killer offer, The next thing is you got to learn how to market it. So we're going to help you market it. And once you're marketing it, and like everything leads into the next. So if you have a killer offer and you're marketing it, what's going to happen? You're going to have all of this inbound attention, whether it's leads, whether it's booked calls. What's the next problem? Well, the next problem is, can I convert these people? So then we're going to help you with sales. We're going to help you convert that. Now, if you have a killer offer that's booking a ton of calls that you're closing a ton of meetings, what's the next problem? The problem is, well, are we delivering well? Are we doing a good job? And that's where the final pillar of delivery comes in, where we're going to help you with delivery X, Y, and Z, however we pitch it, right? So you're allowing everything to be in sequence, so where when the prospect's listening to you speak, when they're imagining it in their mind, they can see, okay, step by step by step by step, and the finish line is my goal. It should be like almost a bridge, where each pillar is a piece of the bridge, and as you're explaining your pitch, they can see themselves walking along. It's like, okay, once my offer is created, then I have my marketing in place and I'm booking calls, then I'm closing calls, and then I have great delivery. What comes next? Oh, I've achieved the goal that I set out to achieve, right? So that's how your pitch should sound. That's how your pitch should feel. So if you're doing all of these things together in conjunction with each other, the pitch will be solid. People will love your offering, and you will not deal with nearly as much objections than if you just threw out general paragraph pillars that a lot of other people do when it comes to their pitch. Hopefully that helps. See you guys in the next video.